Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 154, featuring Jennifer Connor. I am very excited that you are here today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. And I am very excited about this episode. Jen Connor, our director of coaching here at the Childcare Success Company, formerly a client, and of course, one of my best friends, shares her journey in today's episode about how she exited by selling her business to her director. And you're going to learn a ton in this episode, whether or not selling and exiting your business is a goal for you right now, or even within the next 5 or 10 years. It's still really important to structure your business with a sale in mind. And we're going to talk about the breadcrumbs on the trail of this journey that you should be following and picking up in Jen's example of selling and exiting her business by selling to her director, and how she structured the sale, how they valued the business, how they put all the paperwork in place and worked together as a team to make sure to set her director up for success in the highest possible way. And this sale was all happening and being structured during the pandemic. So it's an incredibly useful and important episode for you to be thinking about building your business to sell. And that's why we called this episode, the title is Built to Sell, inspired by a book that we will talk about in this episode that is an incredible book to give you a framework for how to get out of the day-to-day of your business and scale up so that you can exit and at top dollar. Before I get into all of that, I wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored in part by Grow Your Center. If you are struggling with keeping your website up to date, your team is frustrated by your CRM software, and or you want to completely outsource your hiring to a team that knows how to find more A-player teacher and director candidates, you've got to give Grow Your Center a call today. They have built over 300 world-class websites for early education programs exclusively, and can also handle your social media and Google Ads and team recruitment, all done for you. Learn more today with a free Get Acquainted call at growyourcenter.com. Get into boss mode, give them a call, take it off your plate at growyourcenter.com. All right. I want to get you excited about this episode. I'm not going to talk a lot more in the intro here. I want to just dive right in without any further ado into Jennifer Connor's story and how she exited her business. She then came in full-time to work for me and with us here at the Childcare Success Company as director of coaching. And she continues to scale and grow systems, processes, and automation. And she's a beautiful operations manual builder and a systems builder. She comes to it naturally. That is her hard wiring. So she is a CD on the DISC profile, and that means she's a combination of a natural systems builder as well as a leader. And so you're going to learn all about that on today's episode and how she used her natural hard wiring as a CD profile on the DISC to grow her business in a structured, systemized way. And that is her superpower. So with that, without any further ado, let's dive in and learn from Jennifer Connor here on the podcast at Childcare Rockstar Radio. Enjoy. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am so excited that you are here for this episode. It's going to be a juicy one, I feel. I am having Jennifer Connor back to the podcast. She is our director of coaching and on the leadership team at the Childcare Success Company with me. And she's been employed by our team since 2017. So 6-year anniversary. And welcome back to the podcast, Jen. This is your second episode with us.
Thank you, Kris. Thanks for having me. You put a lot of pressure. You say it's going to be a juicy episode. All right.
Well, lately we've been sharing lots of cool stuff behind the kimono, secrets and shares and life stuff. And so you never know what we'll get into here on the podcast. So give us the scoop of what you're up to these days. You are sitting, I believe, near Tulum, right? In your home office.
I am in Tulum, Mexico. Well, a little north of Tulum, Mexico. So it's not quite as crazy, touristy, loud right here. And yeah, really just up to when I'm not working, beach time. It's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to move here. Beach time and explore. And I don't do as much as I want to do, but taking videos and just editing those, of being able to share where I live with other people, and just, I don't know. I love making videos and putting them out on YouTube, TikTok.
Well, at the end, we will ask you, we can give people your professional email and how to find you, but I also would love for you to share at the end, if you would like to, how people can watch your videos and enjoy the beautiful scenery of your beach life, either on TikTok or YouTube. So we'll get to that later. So again, you were in the podcast early days. I forget what your episode number was, but it was in the first couple 20 episodes. And talk a little bit about we basically, what you were revealing and talking about in that episode is how you moved to Mexico and were at that time managing your locations from the beach, which were based in Louisiana and still are today. But now, fast forward another couple of years since you were on the podcast before, you have exited your business at the preschools in Louisiana. So I want to talk to you about the exit and how you did that. But also just dive in a little bit on your background. So when did you start your school? And you don't have to do the full story, but just give a quick highlight of your background in early education.
Yeah, because I have done the full story before, but honestly, my background is not anywhere in childcare. And if you've listened to like any of the things I've said, it was like, this was not the path I thought it was going to go down, not the path I wanted to go down. It was the path made for me though. And my actual degree is in management and a degree in marketing, and then the fun fact, psychology is a minor, and have used my minor probably more than anything. But when I wanted to get out of, I was doing a lot of sales and marketing, and I wanted to get out of that, and I wanted to take my children out of childcare. This was 2004, and I wanted to pull them out. And she just basically approached me with like, well, hey, you have a degree. Do you want to buy this business? And I'm like, no, it's a childcare business, And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, no, I want to be a business owner. I do want to do these things. And I worked for her for a while, just kind of learning all the ins and outs, worked every single position. And then, just eventually it was like September of 2006. Yeah, September of 2006. So it took me a little while to work through all the positions and feel comfortable. Like I didn't want to be an owner that has only been an owner and had no understanding of what goes on in a classroom, or how important it is to get your bathroom break on time because you're doing like a dance around the room because no one will answer your call for help. So understanding those crazy things were important. So I took the time to do that. Mm-hmm. And so, I've been in childcare then really since 2004, which I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, it's 20 years. It doesn't even feel like 20 years. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then we met at the Childcare Success Summit in 2012, I think, is where we met, which was the first summit. And then you became a platinum client. And then you joined me as a coach in 2017 and started working for me in the company as a coach. And then you became director of coaching in 2019, 2020?
2019, I believe.
Okay. So when did you start thinking about, and then when did you move to Mexico?
I moved to Mexico the summer of 2016, kind of in and out. We wanted a test period, for lack of a better word, to just stay and rent and make sure that it was really doable, right? Like, can we actually work from here? Is the internet good enough? Like, is water delivery? Like, and all the crazy questions you ask yourself moving to another country. Can my husband go back and forth to work because he's still back and forth in the States? So it's been since 2016, and then we moved into the condo we own January 2017. And really, the intention was never to sell my school at that time. I had two of them at that time, and it was easy to run them remotely. I was doing that even living in Louisiana. Like, my office was off property. I had built up my leadership team, and they were running everything besides, some of the big pieces. And it was fine. Like, running it remotely was never the issue. But I do remember a time, so it maybe was half a year or so after moving here. And I realized, like, I know 0 employees besides my director and assistant director, or the 2 directors at the 2 locations at the time. I was like, I don't know any employees. I sure don't know any of the parents and families. And I definitely don't know any of the kids, because they've all graduated out since the time when I was on property or there. And it felt more like, even though the job part was doable, the passion piece that drove me to want to have my school and to make a difference in the lives of the families, the children, and the staff, like, there was a disconnect. And so I started looking for ways, like, how do I fix this gap of disconnect? So I put a lot of time into my 2 directors and building them up and giving them basically everything I was doing. And then it got to the point where, like, okay, I just have my name on a check. Like, I have all the weight and the liability on my shoulders, my name on a check, but I'm not doing any of the work. I'm basically not connected to it. So
Right.
if I'm not connected to it, then, and my motto and my mission is to make a difference in their lives. Like, why don't I take that a step further and, like, really make a difference in their lives? Like, they could be running this school. They could be making their own choices. They could be making their own difference and playing a bigger game. So that's when I really started looking at, maybe it's time to do something different. And I'll tell you, Kris, like, exiting your business is a ping pong. Like, one minute I was all in, we're going to sell. And the next minute I was like, nope, I'm pulling it all back. I'm not ready. And then the next something would happen and I'd be like, nope, you can have it all. And I'm like, nope, I love it. So it was probably a year of, no, not even a year, because that was 2017 and I didn't actually sell it till 2020. So for almost 3 years, I ping ponged with this over what was the right thing. So it was, but it really comes down to, I was, not that you can't manage a location remotely. I was doing a fantastic job. We were successful, but it was my personal disconnect that I felt from it.
Right.
And I wasn't enabling them to live their best lives because they were tied to me. They couldn't do their own thing.
Interesting. So with that clarity, but yet being pulled back and forth. And I get that, right? Because it's your baby. And so you want to rise your baby up to be on the next plane. It's kind of like what I'm going through right now with my daughter graduating. It's like, and she's like pulling back at me, but then she's flying, and then she's pulling back and then flying. So that's very normal. So that would be a good takeaway for listeners, is just to know that if you are in the process of exiting or changing some level of ownership structure at your business, that it's very normal to go through these emotional highs and lows and ping-ponging back and forth. So take us through the next part of the process. So you had this clarity, and then did you have a conversation with your director, or how did that come about?
I did. I actually had talked to her and set her down probably 2 years. It was a year into this after I decided. And of course, then I still ping pong for 2 years. But I had that initial conversation, like, this is what I'm thinking and feeling. How are you thinking and feeling? Is this something you're even interested in? So I didn't need to sell it. And I know there's 100 other things I could have done because I own the real estate, the property, the building, everything. I mean, I could have gone into this as a revenue generating change in my life, but that wasn't my goal, or even the reason why I was exiting. It wasn't for money. It was to empower them to carry on that legacy. So I just had a conversation. This is how I'm feeling. This is the path I think I want to take. And I want to look for someone that would want to purchase the location. And I went to my director first. Well, she was my executive director at the time. So we had 2 locations. Is this something you would even be interested in? And she, of course, was immediately yes. But then there's the next thing after immediately yes is, but I don't know this, or this. So working with her over the next little while, and every time I would kind of do that ping pong and try to jump back in, she'd be like, Jen, I've already done it. Jen, I've got it handled. Jen,
Right.
you don't need to worry about it. So the more that kept coming back to me, that energy was like, okay. And then it was just more reassurance. The more time she'd be like, I've already done that. Because I would just randomly think of something like, oh, we have to do this, or this hasn't been done. And she's like, it's already been done. Like, I've already got it. So it made me feel more calm. It made her feel more confident.
Yeah.
And just, we went through that for a little while. And then, of course, in 2019, we closed one of the locations just because it was an after school location and it was not doing well because all the public schools wanted to do free summer camps and free aftercare in our area. And it just made more sense for us to consolidate into one.
Right.
Um, so, which was fine because I was renting that location. This is the one
Right.
I actually own. So
Okay.
consolidating everything in there actually enabled her to have a better grasp on managing like all the age groups all in one building, a summer camp program, along with the preschool, and having that all in-house with her.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how far down this path you want me to go.
Well, so the next part that I'm sure people are wondering is, and I don't know how much of this you can share, but the financial part of talking. So now you've got your director slash executive director excited. She's you're delegating everything to her. She's learning the systems. She's got everything handled. You're feeling really confident. But then there's also the buyout piece on the financial side of it. So you don't have to, again, get into specifics, but what's a common way to structure? Did you research what this could look like? Did you use a financial person? How did you structure this?
Oh, honestly, it was just my gut instinct.
Interesting.
I mean, listeners, if you're business people, don't come after me. It was because, again, it was not about money or making a decision to improve my personal finances. It was about making a difference. So it was not necessarily that I needed the right formula or I needed the right number. I mean, I did have a number. I basically took my revenue times 2.5. So I had done all the work to increase. I mean, Kris, when we joined the academy, we tripled our revenue. I mean, we grew out the rafters of the building, right? So I obviously felt there's value in what I've built. So it was just our yearly revenue times 2.5 was my number. And I gave her the option. I was like, here's what we can do. This is my number. You are more than welcome to go shop around. If you want an SBA loan, if you want it at the bank, like however you want to do this. If you want to go shop around and buy it 100% right now, you complete freedom to do that. Or if that's not available to you,
Mm-hmm.
then here's my other option. We will do owner financing. And owner financing honestly benefits me more because I get a monthly check in when she owner finances. And of course, I get all the finance money. So it basically took my number and almost, I don't know exactly how much, it's significantly more in the long
Right.
run what I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
make because of all the financing. I mean, think when you buy a house and you look at that breakdown, like your
Right.
principal, your $30 to your principal and $1,500 to your interest. But it's crazy. But I was like, we can go this option and do owner financing. You know, what are you comfortable with? And so she did go look at a few loan options and she was like, no, I think if you're willing to do owner financing, that works for me. And actually, we set so what we did, we set like a last day that all the tuition collected would go into my bank account. And then starting that day, all the tuition collected would be in hers. And I gave her, I think 6 or 8 weeks to like build up her cash flow. And to have her tuition, I told her best practices would be to go get a line of credit and, I think I told her 25,000, like go just get some money for a line of credit because
Right.
your tuition's not going to come in day one. Like, but on day one, you're going to have to pay employees. So you had to have this cash flow. So even if owner financing with no down payment and just transferring everything over seamlessly, because it was to the family experience, the child experience, staff experience, there really was no interruption whatsoever.
Right.
But having her have that line of credit because you're going to have expenses day one. You can't wait until your tuition comes in. Like, oh, hang on, employees A, B, and C, I'll pay you in 3 weeks when tuition comes in, and you in 4 weeks when my state subsidy check comes in. Like, it doesn't work quite that way. So
Yeah.
she did the line of credit, and then I gave her the time, and so she just pays me monthly.
Right.
And I know there's risk in that, right? I
Yeah.
know there's risk because everybody made sure to tell me there's risk. Like, but what if she fails? What if she changes her mind? What if she doesn't want to do this? I'm like, owner financing means I still own it
That's right.
until she finishes paying. So
Right.
worst case scenario, it converts to lease money and I step back in and then it'll be my decision at that point in time. Like, do you start another center? Do you sell the property, the building? Like, what do you do?
Right.
And she's doing phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
she's doing phenomenal, but there still always is going to be someone going to you if you go this route and saying, oh my God, but what if she fails? What if they fail? And
Right.
I mean, I'm not signing over anything to her until the payments are done.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's been working out beautifully.
But yeah, and so you made a clear cut on the operating accounts though. So the tuition as of, 6 to 8 weeks out from the agreement, she basically is acting as the owner, collecting all the tuition. She got the line of credit to give her that coverage. And then she's doing payroll. She's acting as if she owns the whole thing, but she still has the note that she's paying off to you. So it's not going to be hers free and clear until she's done with her payments. So that makes sense. That's a good way to structure it. I like that. Cool. And she's doing really, really well. So that's huge. That's a huge win.
She is doing really, really fun fact. She actually opened another business and she comes with a childcare background. So
Okay.
I feel a little bit like I want to pat myself on the back, but not that her second business has anything to do with me. But
Yeah.
I do feel like this has given her, and it makes me feel like a little sparkly inside because that was my goal, to empower people. And I wanted them to have more and be able to be more. Now she's opened, she has a clothing store as well in my hometown where the school is at. So she's been able to take that learning that she's had from running the childcare business, and now she has 2 businesses.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And what was the length of the note? And how much longer does she have on that? So when will you be fully out, do you think?
We did, and you can do anything you would like to do, but
Yeah.
we did 20 years. And I know that's a long time, but it benefits her because the payments are lower.
Yep.
She has 20 years to spread it among.
Yep.
It benefits me because I'm collecting interest for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's that was, and it always was my retirement plan. We were not people that put tons of money into like my husband's retirement plan or investing or whatever. I knew that this business was, even from day one when I bought it, like this business is eventually my retirement plan. Everything that I'm putting into it one day is going to come back out, and that's what's supporting me.
Mm-hmm.
So having that, and honestly, building our budget in Mexico, I did it based off of what that note is. So it evens out. So we're set. Like we could work, we could not work, but having that in is nice. Any point in time, she has the option at any point in time. Like, I mean, it's laid all out just the way you would get your mortgage statement. So she
Right.
knows what parts goes to principal, what goes to interest, what the balance is at all points in time. If at any point in time she wanted to go get a loan for whatever the balance was currently and just pay it straight, free and clear, she has the
Yep.
ability to do that too.
Right. Yeah. So she can prepay it probably no penalty. And the other way to structure it is you can do a balloon payment in the end. So I did owner financing for the real estate that is the Crested Butte office of CCSC with a 7-year note and a balloon payment at the end of the 7 years to get across the finish line. But the first 7 years of payments are very affordable. And then, so you guys could structure it the same way. It really depends on how much, what your age is and how quickly you want to get to your retirement number or how quickly you want to make that exit happen. But typical, I've seen 15 years is probably the average I've seen. You could do a 10-year note, 15, 20. If it's a lower amount, you could do like a 7-year note, like the one that I did, because all I did was buy real estate. So it wasn't as much. It was about $300,000. So yeah, that works out really nicely, and make the payments work for your buyer and get some interest out of it. And it's a win-win, man. I love that you helped set her up to be a business owner. You fulfilled your own mission and vision to help other people become entrepreneurial, other women particularly, maybe. And so you should be really proud of yourself for that.
I do. It feels really good. And I haven't actually stopped and thought about it in a while.
Yeah.
And like thinking of this podcast, like thinking through all of that, it's kind of got all the little feels going on and just, I mean, I'm proud. I would say I'm proud of me, but it's really, I'm proud of her, but that's not right either. It's I'm proud of what we accomplished together, because it's the legacy of what was built, and still being able to serve the families and children and the staff. You know, they still have jobs, they're still supported. And yeah, I mean, and going back to that, like she does pay actually more than her note. So, you know, just because her note is whatever it is for 20 years, I think like she's knocking, you know, when you just pay that little bit extra each month, you know, it's knocking that down. So it gave her that ability to be able to take control over how fast do I really want to pay it off.
Yeah. So is she going to keep the branding Apple Tree Kids, or did she change the business?
She changed it. I actually encouraged her to change it.
Okay.
There's value for sure in keeping a name. However, let's say the people of our hometown, they don't ever forget anything. So like any mistake I would have ever made is hanging on the title of that school. Mm-hmm. And I learned that because when I bought it from the previous owner, it was Apple Tree Center for Children. And so I just tweaked it and said, okay, it's going to be Apple Tree Kids. Well, keeping just that apple tree, which I thought was continuity, actually then, you know, I got like people calling, and it was just, I inherited basically everything from her because they thought it was the same. And so I encouraged her. I was like, I really think you need to rebrand and have your own name. That way it's very clear to our community that it's nothing associated. So anything that could have ever come back and like kind of just bit you from behind, you know, like you don't have to worry about it. It's not there. That brand ceased to exist.
One thing that I think is really cool that you helped her with, that you helped our members and modeled for our members as a coach in 2020 going through COVID, is you were one of the first and foremost people using video to invite your families to stay enrolled with you and to be able to charge them part-time tuition so that they could save their spot and not have their tuition increase. So they would basically get grandfathered in. And you did a whole video message on YouTube explaining to your families why you were going to do that and why it was important to keep the lights on at this school during COVID, and you know, to ask them to continue to pay tuition and not to withdraw fully their children and to stay enrolled with you and all of those things. So I really give you major props. I don't know if our listeners remember back to 2020, certainly the members that are still with us, to using how you were using your communication skills and parent communication and video to keep families with you during COVID. And I think that worked pretty well. Do you want to, and so you were helping your director because you were in the process of exiting and she was taking over at that time, and then COVID hit. So
Right.
did you have to like kind of dive in and just like help her and coach her through that, I'm assuming, and all of that? Talk about that a little bit.
Oh my, you're bringing up things that I almost forgot about.
I think we'd all like to forget about it, but it happened. Sometimes I'm like, did we really live through a global pandemic and we're still here to talk about it? I mean, it's so crazy, right?
Exactly.
Anyway.
No, I really had forgot about that. We were on track to do this purchase probably about the same time frame COVID hit. I mean, honestly. And so going through COVID and having closed schools and closed public school and people working from home changed the entire environment of what I was offering her. I was handing her on a silver platter complete full enrollment, complete staffing, complete processes, systems, operations, everything, all intellectual property. I mean, everything
Wow.
that disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, the video messaging was to stay financially viable, and it served myself and served her, and we worked together. I cannot even count the number of hours and the actual work this woman did night and day, like probably to the detriment of her health, to on her end to keep it up and running, because in her mind, she's the owner, right? Like this is already mine. I've already said yes. This is already going through. Now I know my name's not on the paperwork yet, but it's already mine. So I worked with her and partnered with her to help. I mean, it was helping me because it's still mine, but we worked through that together. And as if COVID wasn't enough, gosh, I can't believe, how do I forget about these things? So then we're August of 2020, and then hurricane comes through, destroys the whole area. We had damage to the childcare building. We were closed for 2 months. So, I mean, here we're just barely coming out of COVID, like pulling enrollment, like pulling parents, like stay with us, stay with us. We got this. We're coming back stronger than ever. And then bam, hurricane. And so not only can we not open, nothing's open. No banks, no grocery stores, no power, no phones. People are moving out of the area. So even we can't even hold on to some of these parents because they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And then here, by the time that was August, it wasn't until December. So God, it was more than 2 months. We were closed August to December.
Wow.
Doing that. And so we come back December 2020, and I'm like, well, I would like to pick up where we left off. I was like, but I don't have the value to offer you anymore. I don't have the same product to give you. I was like, this is my commitment to you. We're going to work together, and we're not going to basically pull the trigger on this deal until I can get you to X number of enrollments. So whatever it takes, however it happens, till we get to X number of enrollments. Right. It took it till August of 2021. It took us 8 months to build that back up. Mm-hmm. But once it got to that point, it was like, all right. And, that's true to both of our words. Then it was like, all right, here's my baby. You get, the ping ponging had stopped. Right. It was a long journey, but it wouldn't have been fair to be like, all right, I'm going to hold you to this, agreement that you signed to purchase the location when I'm not giving you a fair exchange. Right. So we worked to build that back up all through that. So then it actually officially was August 2021.
Okay, cool. That's very interesting. Now, just so the listeners have perspective, what is the capacity of that building? I remember when you got hit by the hurricane, a lot of southern Louisiana and the Panhandle, I think, got completely slammed hard by that hurricane. And so the capacity, and then what percent of subsidy were you or are you in that building?
It's 100 capacity, so it's not huge. Okay. It's not small.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a nice mm-hmm. flow for someone.
Good size. Yep.
We honestly, when I bought it in 2006, we were probably 75% subsidy, mm-hmm. but we gradually kept attracting private pay clients. And the natural just churn as people left, and what we were attracting was private pay. And I mean, for better or for worse, I'll probably contribute that to the academy, because I mean, we're focusing on our phones and our tours and our wow welcomes
Yep.
and like all the different things. So it was attracting a different clientele.
Yep.
We actually had made the decision to get off of subsidy because we had such a small percent of subsidy that it wasn't worth all the paperwork and the requirements
Mm-hmm.
that we had to do for the 5 out of 100 kids that were on subsidy.
Wow.
So we had just decided a couple of months prior to the hurricane to get off of subsidy. Well, maybe prior to COVID. Let me backtrack. I don't know if it was COVID or the hurricane, but it was one of them. We had just decided a few months. So we missed all the government subsidy funding where they were coming in going, whether you're closed or open, we're paying. We're like,
yeah. Yeah. So that is an interesting takeaway for the audience, is that because we have interviewed 100 owners on this podcast, and probably it's a very strong 50-50 mix of subsidy versus private pay. And we've talked a lot about the pros and cons of subsidy versus private pay. And we've talked about how to shift your value proposition and your messaging and your branding of your school and your features and benefits so that you can show up in a different way to more private pay clientele, if that's a goal for you. But in this case, again, pros and cons, whether or not your kids were even attending, if you had subsidy kids, you missed out on a lot of state funding from that. So what are you going to do? Yeah.
And we actually, because we weren't taking subsidy, we changed our license type. So we missed out even on the grants that the state of Louisiana was giving out.
Right.
Because our license type.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, lessons learned.
Yep.
I would still not go backwards and say it was a bad call, because we were having to do a lot of extra work for just the few subsidy kids. And it's not like we don't target market like, oh, we're targeting just for subsidy or targeting just for private pay. It was just how the dice had rolled. And it had been that way for like several years. So it wasn't an overnight choice. But they, every licensing department's always adding on more and more and more strict requirements. And for just the few kids we had, we were like, the payoff's not there. Like, they were wanting teachers with associate's degrees. Okay, we live in a very staffing challenged world. And like in COVID and the staffing challenging world, and to find associate degree teachers. And that's just one example, but the restrictions were getting so high that it was the right choice. We're doing all of this and paying out of pocket to attract this and be able to follow these requirements, only so we can hold on to these few children that are on subsidy. I think by the time we got off of it, it was only like 2 or 3. So it wasn't even a lot. But yes, it had its consequences later. For sure.
Well, it's all good. Neither here nor there. The other thing I want to bring out as we start to close the episode is your focus on systems. So what you gave your director, and I don't know if we want to give her name and shout her out. I feel like we're talking about her, but not really sharing. So I don't know if she wants to say.
Give me a shout out. All right, I will shout out Hope.
Yes, let's give her some shout out. Miss Hope. We love you, Hope.
I'll give her a little bit of privacy there. We'll just do it first.
Hope in Sulphur, Louisiana. We love you. And we think the world of you. So you, Jennifer, are the queen of systems. So what you brought to Child Care Success Company and the Academy is, even when you were a client, before you came on as a coach, you were sharing this amazing training video repository system that you had created with all your branded training videos of your way. This is the Apple Tree Kids way of being in the classroom and showing up for families and doing customer service and then changing a diaper, everything. So every part of your business, in order to get it ready for a successful exit, you had already dove in and spent months or years developing these systems, this intellectual property, this operations manual, this way of doing things. onboarding, training, hiring, parent policies, pricing, tuition collection, just everything. And so that will benefit any buyer and any seller, listening to this, any owners that thinking about selling, is it's going to add value to your business. If you build your list of clientele, have a CRM and have your CRM list and have it clean, because that adds value to your business and you were using childcare CRM, and then have these systems, operations, documentation, manuals, all of this stuff created so that when you are selling your business, you're going to set your buyer up for success to the highest level. And that's one thing that's your jam. That's your superpower.
Well,
right?
it came from a realization I do love systems, and I did that because I felt like I trained people better than anybody else. And so I wanted to do it, but then I got tired of repeating it over and over. So I'm like, why don't I just record it? So that was like the brainchild behind that. And, it's kind of the model that we teach. But what really sank home with all this is that before we knew we wanted to move to Mexico, and I don't even know if you know this story, Kris, maybe you do. Before we wanted to move to Mexico, we were looking at Florida. And we loved Pensacola Beach. It was a 6-hour drive, so it kind of became our weekend getaway place. So we were going to Pensacola Beach so often, I was like, well, let's look to see if there's schools for sale in Pensacola. So this is still the ping pong, right? Like, do I want out or do I want to expand? Like, do I want 5 locations or do I want to exit? So seriously, it was a roller coaster. So I was looking at this location in Pensacola Beach, and I went during a day they were open, and I took a tour and I talked to the owner. And then she's like, well, can you come back Saturday and then we can talk without like everybody here? And I was like, perfect. And I went Saturday, and when I got there, the owner is there, steam cleaning the carpets, doing a deep clean of the school because her inspection was, the next Monday or whatever. And I was like, and I just asked her the simple question, like, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm steam cleaning the carpets. I'm like, but what are you doing?
Right.
Steam cleaning the carpets. Okay.
Right.
It changes. Why are you steam cleaning the carpets? We'll have an inspection. No, you're missing.
No. That's not.
You're missing my question. Why are you yourself, the owner of this business, here on a Saturday steam cleaning the carpets? And the huge realization in it was I was like, I don't want this business because she's the business.
Right.
She's in there on the weekend. She was doing all the things. Everything was her. The business was not a business. It was her. And I was like, I'm not buying a business like that. Like, nobody would want to buy my business like that. Like, I cannot be my business.
Yes.
And then shortly after, then I read, Built to Sell, which is still my favorite book. And it talks a lot about this. And I was like, oh yeah, it makes so much sense. But I saw it in person and felt it. And I was like, I don't ever want to be in that situation. So yes, then I was back in, even though I already had my systems, I was back in them. Like, are they sustainable without me? Like, is everything I'm doing sustainable without me? And when I got it to really the only thing was someone to do the accounting and do payroll, I'm like, you can outsource that. Like, that's still not that's not really dependent on me. So I became even more so into ensuring that everything was set to run without me.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that we focus on in our Freedom Track more than anywhere else in the academy, but at all levels of membership, we help you guys become independent and free of your business so that your business is no longer dependent on you, especially showing up on a Saturday to steam clean the carpets. My goodness. Now, you could argue, like if I was Britt, your husband, I would be like, but Jen, you're going to buy this business and you're going to systemize it and you're going to make it cash flow. So then you can hire somebody to steam clean the carpets, just like you did at your other business, right? So you could probably, if you buy a business that's dependent on the owner, you're going to have to put more work into it, but you might get a really good deal. You should buy it for cheap because you're going to have to put more work in to be able to scale it and make it built to sell, to do all the things that you did. You could have done that, but it would have taken another good chunk of probably a couple of years to get it there. And you were probably like, oh, hell no, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. It could have been next, in the same town. And so this is always a question I get a lot from clients, like how far is too far? Like how far from my next location is too far away from my current location? And so if it would have been in the same town, yeah, okay, that's easily doable. But 6 hours away,
Right.
if it would have been operational without her and it was something I could take on, I probably would have bought it. But
Right.
that was realistically for me at the time, like if I didn't want to split myself that far
Yeah.
apart
Yeah.
and have to put the time and effort into that. Now, again, like if you're right down the road. So it's
Yeah.
that's always something to look at when you're expanding, like how far away is too far for you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, this has been, again, I feel this has been quite a juicy episode. We learned things that I've never learned about you before. So this is very, very cool. How can people find you on social media?
Oh, okay, y'all know I live at the beach, right? So my pictures are all of me in a
In
swimsuit at the
bikinis.
beach, okay?
Yes.
So just like that's your warning.
Are we trying to say that this is not childcare appropriate because it's all bikini stuff? Or I don't know.
I'm just putting a disclaimer out there that I do live on the beach, so I don't go to the beach in my sweatpants.
Okay.
It's the Jen Venture, so like the THE Jen JEN Venture VENTURE.
So instead of joint venture, it's the Jen Venture.
It's the Jen Venture. That's all my social media.
Everything. Play on words. I love that. All right, cool. Well, if you go there and you follow Jen, you're going to get great, video footage and cool. She does really good edited video compilations to cool music and really fun. And I'm sure it does fun TikToks and stuff. But yeah, you're going to see some bikini footage. So that should sell I'm just going to get some few followers from this podcast, Jen.
I have one of you in a bikini too. So yeah. I'm just
yeah, you can see all of us. So we did a leadership team retreat. We went down to Cancun. We stayed at the Hard Rock because we like to also, one of our core values is fun. And so we were living our core values to the fullest by having one of our quarterly leadership meetings at the Cancun Hard Rock. And so we were hanging out in our red bikinis and it's all good, so you got to work hard, play hard. That's the motto around here, people.
Absolutely.
In case you didn't know that, that's my theme song. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jen. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye for now?
No, but I'm sorry the next door neighbor is hammering so loud in the background.
Oh, I didn't hear that. So that's okay, hopefully we can.
We're all good. It's better than drilling, which they're working on it. Yeah. No, really the only final thoughts, this actually brought up a lot of things that I haven't thought about in a while. And, thinking of like my journey as an entrepreneur, my journey in childcare, my journey with CCSC, like just things I hadn't thought about. And wow, it is a lot. Like I have been through a lot of things and I love where that's brought me in life. So I think, just final thoughts is when you're following your passion and you're following what you love, and it doesn't matter what kind of is being built around you, but when you inside are following what you love, you're going to end up where you want to be because you're being true to yourself. And it's kind of reassurance to me. Like I've been true to what I've loved and what I wanted to do and what I followed. And I absolutely love my life now. So yeah, it's been a little eye-opening for myself. So this has been it has been a juicy podcast.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the framework, when you were a Platinum Client Academy member, in one of the first books that I gave, at all of our meetings, everybody gets a free book. Sometimes we have a featured book and sometimes we do like a fun book shopping experience where we bring a bunch of cool books and you get a book. Because we believe in constantly sharpening your saw and reading and learning and continuing your learning journey, and it never stops. And one of the first books that I brought to the Academy was Built to Sell, which we just featured again on Boss Mode Book Club with me and Bruce, by the way. Oh, she grabbed, look at that.
Doesn't go very far away.
So that is such an amazing book. If you guys are getting inspired by this content of, oh, how am I going to exit? And let me see, what do I need to make in order to make my business saleable at the top dollar? This is all amazing work. It is extremely, it's the most valuable work that you'll do, because you'll take the value of your business from 2 million to 4 million just by doing what Jen's talking about and using the book Built to Sell as a framework. And so I think you could also teach this as a future session, Jen, as you could take everything he did on Built to Sell, and then you could show exactly what you did in your business that aligned with that. And I think, just as a model, and I think people would eat that up. Like, that's just amazing. So I love it.
Got something else out of it. And I know my next presentation.
Okay. So unfortunately, I just gave her some more work to do, everybody. So she may or may not take me up on that, but it's a good one. And I think we'll have that to look forward to in the future. So thanks so much for being here, Jennifer Connor. We're all big fans of you. And I'm so happy personally to have you on my team here at the Childcare Success Company and have had you in my life for 11 years. And it's been one of the best friendships of my life. And if I think about it too hard, I'm going to start crying. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks everybody for being here. And we'll see you next time right here on the podcast at Childcare Rockstar Radio. Take care and God bless. Thanks, Jen. Bye. I hope you liked this episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please share it with someone you know and help spread the word to your friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, learn more about how to grow your business and make more income with our brand new free quiz, the What's My Number One Income Killer quiz, exclusively for preschool and childcare owners. Take the quiz today at childcarequiz.com to discover what your number one income killer is and how to solve it. Take care and God bless.